And now let's get started. Cameroon is protesting criticism from French President Emmanuel Macron over how the Central African country is handling the conflict in its English-speaking regions. More than 100 mainly young people rallied in front of the French embassy in Cameroon's capital, Yaounde, on Monday, demanding an apology from the French leader. The protesters denied accusations that they were organized or paid by Cameroon's government. So what is the grouse here for them? Here's it again. On Saturday, President Macron described the human rights situation in Cameroon as intolerable, in quote. He was responding to a Cameroonian activist's question about 22 civilians killed this month in the separatist conflict. Many witnesses accused gunmen in military uniforms to have launched the raid on the village on February 14, killing women and children.
Mr. Macron, Cameroon is not a French overseas department or territory, is what was written on the placards of demonstrators gathered in front of the French embassy in Yaounde on Monday. A crowd of 400 to 600 people, according to the police. We are not a province of France. Cameroon is a sovereign state, independent since 1960, said Soli Abubakar, president of the Association of Young Supporters of Paul Biya, who initiated the rally. The rallies that continued in front of the French consulate in Douala on Tuesday. The demonstrators assured that they would maintain their protest until they get an apology from the French president. And we'll continue to gather reactions with Professor Charlie Gabriel Mbok, a writer who is now joining us from Yaounde, Cameroon.
Yaounde au Cameroun. Gabriel Mbok, bonjour. Alors, ma première question, les propos
d'Emmanuel Macron's words have not been well received at all in Cameroon, not only by the authorities but also by the public. Do you understand these reactions? I find that it is uncalled for and disrespectful because the nature of the situation does not allow one to make remarks which concern a state. You do not talk about a matter of state in this way. The second concern relates to Mr. Macron's stance. The French already recognize in him a great deal of capacity of arrogance and even insolence, and he has not contradicted it by speaking out in such a manner. The question calls into question the African leaders who always succeed in being humiliated by French head of state for never having tried to cut the colonial code that makes the words of a Macron to an African head of state resemble the instruction of a head state to the governor of a colony. This is insulting to Africa in general and is difficult to accept as an African and as a Cameroonian.
Qui fait que les propos d'un Macron vis-à-vis ou en direction d'un chef d'État africain ressemblent aux instructions d'un chef d'État à un gouverneur de colonie. Cela est insultant pour l'Afrique en général, et c'est cette insulte-là qu'il est difficile d'accepter en tant qu'Africain, en tant que Camerounais.
Thought-provoking, however, I would like us to point out here the context. The comments of the French president was, in fact, on a major subject, the human rights situation in certain parts of Cameroon.
Il y a des morts, il y a des images horribles.
There are deaths. There are horrible events. There are horrors being committed. And at this level, it is very difficult to assess the delicate issue. I only doubt that France is qualified to give lessons in human rights to the Cameroonian people who have been subjected to genocide by the French colonial army. I have no intention of clearing Cameroon's government at all. We cannot be delicate since the tragedy the people of Cameroon are suffering in the struggle for independence seems to be happening again in 2020 in one part of Cameroon.
En 2020, dans une partie du Cameroun.
Immediately after Emmanuel Macron's statement, the Cameroonian government assured him that it wanted to remain in control of its destiny before coming back on Monday by declaring itself offended by surprising remarks. Is that enough of a reaction in your opinion? The question is a national disgrace. And if we had sovereign power, we would have expected to use an ambassador to discuss the issue from state to state. Because it is no longer at the level of individuals, it becomes institutional. And it is not enough to say one's surprise at that level. It is a state scandal which wants a state to stand up and challenge the one that is harming it at the international level. I will be surprised if there are these kind of reactions, because President Macron must know how he holds the one he can speak to in this way.
Au niveau international. Je serais surpris qu'il y ait ce genre de réaction, parce que le président Macron doit savoir où il tient celui à qui il peut parler ou qu'il va pouvoir parler de cette manière-là.
Well, France surely does know where it keeps African heads of state, especially if they have to receive development aid. Don't you think so?
In
2011, I published a book in Canada entitled Decolonizing France. The purpose was to invite Africans to help France to liberate itself from its colonies. By this, I meant that France today cannot afford to do without Africa, and it cannot avoid leeching on Africa. That is why France is becoming more and more aggressive, more and more violent in Africa. When you talk about development aid, I do not believe it. You can't say you're helping someone when in reality you're depending on that person. We are twisting the arms of African heads of state. We are leading and fueling rebellions to give ourselves the beautiful role of liberator. Whereas in areas where there's gold, oil, and precious minerals, we have organized rebellions against the central government.
Contre l'État central.